You know, usually when we talk about a perfect utopian society, in fiction, or even when we look at highly structured historical empires, there is this expectation of a pristine, frictionless machine.
Right, the aesthetic of total order.
Exactly. Everyone has their assigned place, the gears turn silently, and you just marvel at how smooth and clean it all looks from the outside.
A seamless experience where everything is categorized, controlled, and visibly functioning to the benefit of the majority.
Yeah, the machine works.
Huh.
But then you step a little closer and you look directly at the gears and you realize they're being lubricated by something deeply unsettling.
Like the fuel it runs on is something you were never supposed to see.
Precisely. And that is the exact structural illusion we are unpacking today. We've got a really fascinating piece of source material on the table for this deep dive. It's a pitch document for a 90-minute animated film by Loop Animation Studios titled Genesis Protocol.
It is such a compelling setup.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. The log line alone is a conceptual gut punch. We are looking at a near-future sci-fi world where children are born with extraordinary superpowers. They are drafted into a global service to protect humanity from massive disasters, only to uncover a terrifying secret.
The very disasters they are whisking their lives to stop
Yeah,
are actually being manufactured by the exact system that controls them.
it's wild. So our mission today, and you're going to love this, is to explore how this story uses familiar superhero tropes to examine profound, real-world themes.
Right, because we aren't just going to recap the plot of an unreleased film today. We really want to dig into the mechanics of institutional trust, those invisible methods of generational control, and that chilling question of what price humanity is actually willing to pay for the illusion of security.
Absolutely, because to really understand how the world of Genesis Protocol shatters, we first have to understand why the public buys into it so completely in the first place.
Yeah, to the average citizen in this universe, the system isn't an oppressive regime at all. It is a total, undeniable triumph.
It is the ultimate social contract, executed on a global scale. So in this near-future setting, the central authority is the Global Superhero Academy, or the GSA.
And we should clarify, this isn't just a school.
Oh no, not at all. It is an immensely powerful international institution that effectively supersedes local governments. And their mandate begins incredibly early, like from the age of 3. Any child born with extraordinary abilities is mandatorily enrolled in this academy.
3 years old.
Yeah, 3.
I mean, they are taking literal toddlers and drafting them into a global defense force.
On paper, that sounds horrifying, right?
Totally.
But the pitch document explains how the GSA completely sanitizes the process. It's framed to the public and to the families as this prestigious calling, almost like being selected for an elite diplomatic corps.
Like hitting the genetic lottery.
Exactly, because in exchange for surrendering their child, the families receive immense generational privilege. They get incredible wealth, guaranteed security, and elite social status.
Which makes it impossible to refuse.
And here's the kicker. The parents of these children, who were once superheroes themselves, now serve as the instructors and administrators within the academy.
Which brings us to the foundational premise that allows this entire society to function. Because those parents, the instructors managing the academy, they no longer possess any superhuman abilities.
Right, they are just normal humans now.
Exactly. In this world, the overarching rule is that superheroes automatically lose their powers the second they turn 18.
Like clockwork.
Like clockwork. It is accepted universally as a basic biological phenomenon. You age out of puberty, your cellular structure settles, and you just naturally age out of your superpowers. You then transition into a comfortable desk job or a coaching role within the GSA.
Wait, let me look at this from a purely tactical standpoint for a second. Because capping your global defense force at age 18 seems like an incredibly glaring vulnerability.
It really does, if you take it at face value.
Yeah, because if I am building a planetary security apparatus to fight massive disasters, I want seasoned, experienced adults. I want people with decades of tactical knowledge, not a bunch of hormonal teenagers. I mean, why wouldn't a society desperately want fully trained adult heroes?
Well, what's fascinating here is that that is the exact logical trap we fall into if we assume the GSA's primary goal is actually defense.
Ah, okay.
But if we shift the lens and realize the primary goal is control, well, then the 18-year expiration date becomes an absolute masterpiece of societal engineering.
Because adults are harder to manage.
Exactly. If you think about the implications of a society where superpowers exist, The absolute biggest threat to institutional stability is an adult with godlike abilities.
Right, yeah.
You cannot manage someone who has a fully developed prefrontal cortex, independent political views, financial autonomy, and, the physical power to level a city.
Oh, I see. You can't leverage a mortgage or a political scandal against someone who can just throw a mountain into orbit.
Precisely. By relying on this 18-year expiration date, the system guarantees that all superhuman power remains juvenile. It is wielded entirely by children and teenagers who are still forming their identities.
Who are desperate for adult validation.
Yes, and who are entirely dependent on the Academy's infrastructure for their housing, their social standing, and their purpose. It ensures that the actual power, like the political, economic, and structural power, remains solely in the hands of the human institutional leadership.
So the adults make the rules and the children enforce them.
Exactly.
That is incredibly dark when you frame it like the mechanics of an industry. It actually reminds me a lot of the child acting ecosystem or elite youth sports like gymnastics or figure skating.
Oh, that's a really good comparison.
Right. You have this young child with raw, explosive talent, and that talent ends up funding the entire family's lifestyle. The child is the golden goose.
Yeah.
And by the time they hit young adulthood, their bodies are worn out, they are cycled out of the spotlight, and their only viable career path is to become a coach.
They feed right back into the machine.
Exactly. They feed right back into the machine that consumed their own youth without ever stopping to question if the machine itself is fundamentally abusive.
Yeah.
I mean, they are financially and psychologically incentivized not to question it.
The system is perfectly self-sustaining because it co-opts the very people who should naturally be its biggest critics. The former prodigies become the current managers, perpetuating the cycle.
And sitting right at the nexus of this cycle is our protagonist, a teenager named Sumeera Khan.
Right. She's a highly gifted student from India with the ability to manipulate energy, and she's a natural leader among her peers. But it is her family dynamic that really anchors the philosophical stakes of the story.
Yeah, because her mother, Naila Khan, isn't just an instructor. She is the revered head of the entire Global Superhero Academy.
Naila doesn't just manage the school. She effectively shapes global policy. The text notes she is largely responsible for the economic stability of the entire planet.
Wow.
So for Sumeera, the oppressive institution isn't some faceless bureaucracy in a distant city. The institution is her mother. The authority of the state and the authority of the parent are perfectly overlapped.
Which makes any rebellion an act of ultimate family betrayal.
Exactly. But a system that relies on keeping literal gods docile under the age of 18 has a glaring vulnerability. Teenagers are inherently curious, and perfection requires too much visible orchestration.
It's bound to slip up.
Yeah, when a system is engineered that rigidly, it will always leave statistical clues.
Which is exactly what Sumeera and her tight-knit group of friends start to notice as their missions intensify. And I love the specific details the pitch document provides here because it frames the discovery not as some, magical revelation, but as a data-driven detective story.
Right, they start looking at the numbers.
Yeah, they notice a massive flood in Mumbai, and when they cross-reference the data, it perfectly mirrors a previous disaster in Brazil. The water flow patterns, the timing of the surge, the exact ratio of collateral damage. It's like a carbon copy.
It's too perfect.
Way too perfect. Then they analyze a wildfire that doesn't burn like natural fire. It spreads with this calculated, unnatural precision. It deliberately avoids certain industrial sectors while targeting others.
It behaves less like a chaotic natural phenomenon and more like a computer algorithm executing a set path.
Yeah.
Maximizing spectacle while minimizing damage to key global infrastructure.
Which points to something much darker than just nature running its course. So, driven by this growing unease, Sumeera's team secretly investigates the GSA's restricted data logs, and what they uncover is a truth that completely shatters their reality.
These disasters aren't natural.
They are engineered. The Global Superhero Academy, under the direct orders of its inner council led by Naila Khan, has been actively orchestrating these controlled catastrophes globally.
It is manufactured chaos. The GSA deliberately sets the world on fire so that their superpowered youth can swoop in, put it out on camera, and remind the globe why the Academy is strictly necessary.
It's so messed up.
It brings to mind the economic concept of the broken window fallacy, but weaponized on a geopolitical scale. The institution breaks the world's windows just to prove how vital their glazier services are.
I do struggle a bit with the cartoonish villainy of this, though. causing global disasters just for good PR and funding seems almost absurdly evil.
Right. It seems a bit much at first glance.
Yeah. Are we supposed to believe Naila Khan and the GSA Council are just mustache-twirling sociopaths who enjoy watching cities flood? I mean, how do they internally justify the massive loss of innocent life?
Well, that is where the narrative transcends simple good versus evil tropes and dives into the terrifying psychology of institutional self-preservation. The GSA Council absolutely believes they are the saviors of humanity. If we look at the lore, the world before the GSA was likely fractured, chaotic, and constantly on the brink of devastating conventional or nuclear wars. Naila's twisted utilitarian logic is that humanity is inherently self-destructive.
Okay, I see where this is going.
By creating a shared global threat, these terrifying but ultimately managed disasters, the GSA forces the nations of the world to cooperate. They manufacture a common enemy to enforce political unity and total economic stability.
So they're essentially holding the world hostage, but they're keeping it peaceful. It's a managed bleeding rather than a total hemorrhage.
Exactly. It's the ultimate manifestation of the truth versus stability debate. The leadership calculates the innocent lives lost in these engineered disasters as a tragic but acceptable tax for global order.
Wow.
They provide the savior, they write the script, and they prevent humanity from turning its weapons on itself.
It's an extreme version of something we see in our own society all the time. Think about how readily we accept highly invasive neighborhood surveillance cameras or massive data harvesting by tech companies.
Oh, absolutely.
We trade our baseline freedom and privacy for the feeling of safety. We accept the watchful eye because it stops a package thief, completely ignoring the broader implications of who actually holds the footage. The GSA is just doing that with literal tidal waves.
And the deception runs far deeper than geopolitical manipulation.
Yeah.
Because as Sumaira's team digs into the medical logs, they discover that the GSA's control extends into their very biology.
Oh, right, the expiration date.
Yes, the 18-year expiration date on their powers, that unquestioned biological phenomenon, it is completely artificial.
It's an induced kill switch.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The pitch document reveals it's a chemical or genetic suppressant disguised within the Academy's mandatory wellness protocols. The GSA is deliberately stripping these kids of their abilities right when their brains fully mature, right when they become young adults capable of challenging the system's authority.
The mechanism of control relies entirely on the illusion of inevitability. If every superpowered child believes losing their powers at 18 is as natural as losing baby teeth, they never fight it.
Because why fight biology?
Right. They mourn the loss, they accept their new roles as ordinary adults, and the system continues unchallenged.
And for Sumaira, the realization that the architect of this entire multi-layered lie, the engineered deaths, the forced depowering of her generation, the manipulation of the global economy, is her own mother. I mean, it takes the story from a geopolitical thriller straight into an intimate family tragedy.
It really does.
The very person who gave her life, who hugged her, who trained her to be a hero, is the one systematically stripping her autonomy and lying to the world.
It creates an impossible psychological burden. Sumaira isn't just fighting a corrupt government, she is fighting the woman who defined her reality. And this is what propels the story into its climax.
Right.
Sumaira and her team realize that leaking documents online isn't enough to break a system this entrenched. They have to shatter the illusion in real time.
So what do?
They coordinate a massive interception, disrupting a staged global disaster that the GSA is currently running. They actively go off script while the whole world is watching.
And of course, the Academy immediately turns its forces on the students. And in the middle of this massive chaotic intervention, we get the ideological core of the story clashing in real time. Sumaira comes face to face with Naila.
The ultimate showdown.
Yeah, but Naila isn't just defending her status, she is defending her entire worldview. Her justification to her daughter is chilling in its absolute, unwavering certainty. Naila says, a controlled world is a stable world. Humanity, left unchecked, leads to chaos.
Naila truly believes that illusion and sacrifice are the required currency for human survival. To her mind, relinquishing that control-letting truth win out over stability means condemning the entire globe to eventual destruction.
So she thinks she's the hero.
Yes, she isn't fighting to oppress her daughter. She believes she is fighting to save the world from itself.
And the way this battle is visually and conceptually designed in the pitch document is brilliant, because it's not just a physical brawl with energy blasts. Nyla's specific superpower is shapeshifting.
Which adds such a crazy layer to it.
Right. So during this incredibly high-stakes confrontation, Nyla is constantly transforming. She morphs into other GSA heroes. She turns into innocent, terrified civilians. She even transforms into Samara herself.
It elevates the conflict into a master class of psychological warfare.
It really does. It's the literal embodiment of gaslighting. Think about what it's like trying to argue with a master psychological manipulator in real life, like a narcissist who twists your words, reflects your insecurities back at you, and plays the victim until you don't know it's real anymore.
It's exhausting and disorienting.
Completely. Nyla is weaponizing identity. She is deliberately blurring the line between reality and emotion for Samara. How do you strike down the ultimate oppressive institution when it's wearing your own face or crying out as a civilian you swore an oath to protect?
That psychological battleground is where the true resolution of the film is decided. The choice Samara makes at the end of this brutal fight defines her character and the future of their world. She overpowers her mother, winning the physical conflict, but she refuses to execute her.
She takes the high road.
She rejects the lethal conditioning her mother's system instilled in her.
Instead, she goes for the ideological kill. She takes the unassailable data, the proof of the manufactured disasters and the chemical suppressant protocols, and she broadcasts it globally, overriding the GSA's communications network.
She chooses truth over stability. She forces the world to look at the ugly gears running their perfect machine. And in doing so, the untouchable authority of the GSA and the global trust in these institutions collapses entirely.
Which brings us to the aftermath. The ending of Genesis Protocol leaves us in a state of deliberate, messy ambiguity. The world is plunged into total uncertainty. Without the GSA manufacturing disasters, the traditional role of the superhero is suddenly obsolete. Or, at the very least, it desperately needs to be redefined from the ground up without the framework of a global military apparatus.
The social contract is irrevocably torn. The global populace suddenly has to grapple with the reality that their decades of peace were built on engineered mass murder. But conversely, for the first time in history, these superpowered youth are no longer just weapons in an institutional arsenal. They have agency.
Real agency.
Samara steps out into this unknown future viewed as a massive contradiction. She is the rebel who destroyed the world's safety net, but also the hero who freed them from a monstrous lie.
Looking at the pitch document as a whole, it brilliantly intertwines several massive themes that we grapple with every day. We see the tension of control versus freedom, the GSA's engineered bloody peace versus the chaotic, terrifying reality of free will. We see childhood versus responsibility, examining a society that offloads its moral compromises onto the shoulders of heavily armed teenagers.
And we dissect truth versus stability, asking whether a comfortable, functioning lie is fundamentally better than a devastating reality. If we connect this to the bigger picture, perhaps most poignantly, it's about family versus ideology. It explores the profound tragedy of discovering that the people we love and trust the most are the architects of the systems that oppress us.
So what does this all mean? Returning to you listening right now. Obviously, you don't have energy manipulation powers, and hopefully you aren't fighting shape-shifting institutional overlords. But this story acts as a mirror for the mundane reality we live in. It asks you to reflect on the systems operating silently in the background of your own life.
Right, the invisible trade-offs.
Yeah. What autonomy do we unknowingly trade away every single day in exchange for the promise of security? Whether it's signing away our data privacy for a convenient app, accepting workplace surveillance for the promise of job security, or just blindly trusting that the algorithms curating our news feeds aren't orchestrating our emotional reactions. Are we accepting the illusion of a perfect, frictionless system because we are simply too afraid of the friction that comes with true freedom?
It is a deeply uncomfortable question to ask oneself. And the beauty of this source material is that it leaves us with one final, very provocative thought to mull over. Something the story's resolution naturally opens the door to, but refuses to answer.
Oh, I love a lingering existential question. What is the final thought we are walking away with?
Well, think about it. If the loss of powers at age 18 was entirely an artificial limitation, right? A chemical leash imposed by the now collapsed Global Superhero Academy.
Yeah.
Does that mean Samara and her entire generation will now retain their godlike abilities into full adulthood.
Oh, wow. Because the system imposing the daily suppressants is gone. The medical protocol is shattered.
Exactly.
The leash is completely off.
The leash is off. And if they do keep their powers, we have to ask the terrifying corollary. When a world suddenly filled with fully grown, politically active, completely untethered superbeings eventually create the exact kind of unchecked, catastrophic chaos that Nyla Khan was trying to prevent all along.
Oh my God.
By choosing freedom and by exposing the truth, did Sumara just guarantee the end of the world?
Man, that is a heavy, incredible thought to leave on. You break the flawless machine to expose the ugly gears, but without the machine, you might just be letting the monster out of the cage. Nayla might have been a monster, but she might also have been right. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope it gave you something to think about the next time you look at a system that seems just a little too perfect. Until next time.